Good evening, everyone.
How are you?
Oh, Hashem, thank you. Uh, let's get moving. Okay, looks like we're doing Bob today. Maybe hey. Okay. Yeah, so it says here, Pirish Rashbam, Dafka lechatchila kafid. So he brings the Rashbam here, which says only lechatchila he is particular about this. So I think we read this yesterday, this tour. So we'll see the bit Yosef here. It says like this: Chen katab b'perek arbe psachim. It says in Arbe Psachim, Gemara, Kufa Amud Aleph, "V'tamo mishum dekafid lechatchila, mashma v'chen katu atosot bishmo beresh perek elu dvarim." So he says, right, that the reason is his reason is because he is makpid lechatchila. He's particular lechatchila. Right, lechatchila. He says that's the way it implies. Okay, that's what it says in Tosfot. He says in his name, beresh perek elu dvarim, in this perek. And then Rami Rothenberg, right? And this Rabbi Meir Rothenberg, Haya Noheg Levarech Halav, he used to bless on it Beshat Chak, when it's a blessing situation. כתב עוד שאם החזיר מכוס של יין פגום לתוך הקנקן שאין לחוש כלל. So he says, right, that if you return from the cup of wine, right, which is lacking, now you return it back into the barrel, right? Little barrel there. So we said that yesterday. Because katuv be'orchot chaim, it's all written in Orchot Chaim. It says katav od sham b'shem Rav Hilai Gaon. It also says the name of this Gaon. Afilu maya pegime pstile lemimzag behu kasa kedushin ve'abdalta uverchata. So he says even water is going to be a problem, right? When you're adding water, which is also pagum. What does that mean? It was drank from, and you're adding it to the wine. Even that'll be a problem. So yeah, this is what we did yesterday in the Shulchan Aruch. We read this. So this was Hey and Zayin. So let's look at the Shulchan Aruch. I think we'll get a lot more clarity from there. So it says here, right? So the thing is like this: if you return, right, wine from the which from the cup which is lacking was somebody drank from it back into the right the pitcher whatever. So that wine is kosher. It's not considered to be lacking just because you poured some what lacking water in there. Mishum de kama batil. So it says, what's the reason why? So it says because it gets nullified. After all, right? It's a small minority there of what you put back there. The rest of it is what was there before. So therefore, it gets nullified in the majority there. So just to remind you guys, right? What are we talking about here? I hope you guys are not getting perplexed over here about what I'm saying. We were talking yesterday about the issue that when a person is using wine for Birkat Hamazon, or also for Kiddush, the same thing, right? Or Havdalah, whatever it may be. The cup should not be lacking, meaning to say that somebody drank from it and you didn't refill it, that would be a problem. So now he says that if you take wine like that, in a cup, which is like somebody drank from it, and you put it back into the little barrel, so there it's not going to be a problem to use that wine because it's nullified in the majority there. That's what we're saying. Okay, if you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, we'll go on from here and go to the next. So we got two more in the Shulchan Aruch, and pretty much we covered all this already. But let me just make sure I did all the Bet Yosef. Everything is done. So there's one more piece here. I think Vav Bet Yosef. This one. So it says. As we said right yesterday that in the tour we read this that some of a custom when there's a cup which is lacking wine, what they do is they add some wine and they refill it basically, right? And that's okay according to this opinion. Some say you can even add water. And the truth is, adding water is sometimes really a good thing. Why? Because anyway, in the old days, they used to dilute the wine with water. So putting some water into the wine is really not really a problem. It's definitely still kosher in every way possible. So if you want to add, like, let's say 10% water to the cup or 20%, whatever, something like that, right? As long as it's a minority of water and the majority is still wine, there's really no problem with that. And all the more so you could add wine itself, right? Which is really no problem whatsoever. So if you refill the cup, you are fixing it by doing that, right? That's the thing, according to this opinion. And I'm not sure if everybody holds by this, but according to this opinion, it's okay. So let's see how Shulchan Aruch paskins here, and we're done with this chapter. Um, so first of all, right, says in Shulchan Aruch, יכולים לתקן כוס פגום על ידי שיוסיפו מעט מים. If the wine is lacking, right, in the cup, what you can do is, add some wine to it, right? Refill it, in other words, and you're fine. That's one thing. אפילו על ידי שיוסיפו עליו מים מתקן. And you can also add some water, right? That's fine, so you're good with either way. So Shulchan Aruch does paskin like these opinions. So this is the halacha. There you go. One thing I must say, right, that when it comes to Havdalah, in the Kabbalah, it says that you shouldn't add water to the Havdalah cup. So according to that, you dafka shouldn't add water there for Havdalah. But for Kiddush, there's no problem whatsoever. So that's the way it is, you know. But the truth is, you know, if a person had nothing else to add besides water, even for Havdalah, he could do it because according to the Pshat, according to the Halakha, it's fine. Just according to Kabbalah, there's a problem there. So therefore, if he's got no choice, he could do that too. But right, lechatchila, the best thing to do with Havdalah is that there should be no water in there whatsoever, just like totally wine. No dilution. Okay, so we got one more here, short one. B'shat atchak mevarchin al kos pagum. So another thing, right, which we learned is that, you know, if you have nothing else but a lacking cup of wine, you can bless on that too. You know, if you got no choice, right? That's also possible. But it's only when you have no choice, obviously, right? If you do have a choice, exercise your right to do something much better, a better option. This is not the best option, but it's a last resort. That's what it is. Okay, that's that. So we're done with that. Let's go to the next chapter, which is Kuf Pei Gimel. Yes. Okay. So let's start with the Bet Yosef tour. It says over here. Seen on Perek Gimel Shachlu, right? It says in the Perek this is in Brachot. Gimel Shachlu. Amar Rabbi Zera, Yud Dvarim Nemru B'Kos Shel Bracha. So it says this rabbi that there was 10 things that which were said when it comes to the cup of blessing. Taun Hadacha. Number one is it requires Hadacha Shtifa. And what do these things mean? That means you got to rinse it from the inside and from the outside. You got to clean it. You know, cup has to be nice and clean, washed well. So then maleh, right? Also has to be full. Ituf, and then these things also it requires itur and ituf. We'll see what that means, right? Offhand, I don't know what this means, but we'll see. Mekabelo b'shtei adav. Also, you have to take it with two hands. V'notno yemino umagbiho min hakarka. And then you take it into your right hand and you lift it up off the ground, tefach, one tefach. And he just got to put his eyes on it. And also send it to your family members. So all these things, right, were said about the coast of bracha. Tana adacha mivfnim b'shtipa b'chutz. So it now explains to you, right? Adacha means you wash it from the inside. Shtifa means you wash it from the outside. Ve'ita b'tosefta, it says in Tosefta, ve'in kanao yafeh shapir dameh. Kanacho, right? And it also says another thing, which is that if he wiped it off well, that's also good, you know? So what does that mean? Instead of using water, he just like wiped it, you know, with a cloth or something. Okay, that's good. So let's go to Bet Yosef. Says Bet Yosef, he brings a source for this, right? It's in Brachot, Nun Aleph Amud Aleph. Amar Rabbi Zera, Asad Varim Nemu B'Kos Shel Bracha. There was 10 things which were said about the this cup of wine, which is for the blessing. Umash Katav Beita B'Tosefta, and that what you said, that there, it's written in Tosefta, Shem Kanacho Yafeh Shapir Dameh, that if he wiped it well, it's also good. That's also fine. Sham, so it says it's over there, shtifa b'mechutz. It says, right, that shtifa means you wash on the outside. Hadacha means you from the inside. Re explains, Tafka she'ena kos yafeh sheyesh bo shiurei kosot. So he said that's only when the cup is not, doesn't look nice. Because it's got like remnants of other cups. But if it's good looking without this, regardless, um, it's okay. And Katab Mordechai, that's what it says in Mordechai. V'chen Katab Rabbeinu Yonah. All these rabbis say the same thing. So it says, right, that now the custom is we do these things, right? What does that mean? We wash it from the inside and the outside. But it says if they didn't drink from it at the time when they were eating, and now, right, time of the blessing, they find that it's clean. So then you don't really need to rinse it, he says, right? There's no reason. Because it's clean as it is. Okay, that's good. That's Aleph. So let's see Shulchan Aruch. Not really much there. Small piece. So it says here, Kos shel bracha ta'un adacham. Right? So, right, as we said, that when you have a cup, right, for the wine, it does require to rinse it on the inside and the outside. But he says if it's already clean as it is, and there's no right leftovers there, whatever left. Then you don't really need it. That's the thing, right? So if the cup is clean as it is, it doesn't really need nothing. It doesn't need any rinsing at all. That's what he says. Okay, makes sense. So we'll go to bet. So we got to go back to the tour a little bit. So it says the tour like this: Chai in perusho chai mamash. So when we say right that it's chai, so the word chai in Hebrew has several meanings, right? I'm sure you know what chai means, right? It means life, but we're not talking about that over here. So what are we talking about? Right, here, the word is being used for like something which is a raw, undiluted product. So we're talking about raw, undiluted wine. That's the idea. So it says it doesn't mean right. It's totally undiluted. But didn't we learn right that the rabbis admit Rabbi Eliezer the kosher bracha when it comes to cup of blessing? We don't bless on it until you put some water in there to dilute it. So you do, we do actually like dilute it with the water. Okay. So I'll read on. So it says the Hadetanan Mudim Chachamim Rabbi Eliezer Kosh Bracha Shen Rachin Elav Ad Shitin Letochom Mayim Uperesh Rabbi Alfas. So he says because it says in the Mishnah that the rabbi said that they right the rabbis admit to Rabbi Eliezer that when it comes to the cup of blessing, we don't bless on it until he puts in there wine, dilutes it with water. I'm sorry, the water with water. Peresh Rav Alfas explains the Rif. Shemanicho chai ad birkat haaretz. They leaves it right undiluted or raw until birkat haaretz, until the blessing of the land. Be'az mozgo leodia shevach haaretz, and then he mixes it right. He dilutes it with water in order to show you, display to you the praise of the land. Sheinotia chazakim, because the wines of Israel are strong wines. But tzarich le'areb maim rabim. So that therefore you got to put a lot of water in there to dilute it, right? Otherwise it's too strong. Can't even drink it like that. It's not drinkable. So if you guys ever heard, right, me telling you, I don't know if I told you, but in those days when they used to dilute wine with water, it was 1 part wine and 3 parts water. So it was only 1/4 of wine. That's how strong it was, the wine in those days. They had to put 3 parts water against it. And today it's not like that, right? The poskim have said the wines in our times are much weaker than they used to be. Some say you don't even need to dilute it today. But we still do it, just as a kabbalistic thing, whatever. It's a custom that we put some a few drops of water in there. So that's what we do nowadays, but nevertheless, right? It's not what it used to be in the old days when it really needed to be diluted, big time. פרש רב אלפס שמניחו חי עד ברכת הארץ ואז מוזגו להודיע שבח הארץ, we read this already, וצריך לערב על המים. So Rabbeinu Tam, he says, Piresh explains, חי מזוג ולא מזוג שמוזגו קצת. So it says Rabbeinu Tam, when it says that it's chai, right, raw, in other words, undiluted, it's diluted, and not diluted. In other words, it's somewhat diluted, but not totally. Because he dilutes a little bit, and then when he gets to the Birkat Haaretz, right over there, the second blessing, Birkat Haaretz, blessing of the land, Mozgo Krawi, then he dilutes it as needed, as really needed. Al Achad Tilat Maya. As we said, right? So what's the percentage? 3 parts water, 1 part wine. So look what he says, right? As I just told you guys. He says, our wine today, nowadays, doesn't require mixing at all. It doesn't require dilution. Because it's not so strong. It doesn't need to be diluted. So Rashi says it means that you put it into the cup of blessing, go, בו להפוקה, you dilute it with it, להפוקה שלא ימזגנו בכלי, comes to exclude that he shouldn't dilute it with a utensil, with a vessel. כלי אחר, with a different utensil. And then give it, put it inside the cup of blessing. And I mean, alternatively says, we can say that he removes it from the barrel, l'shem bracha, in order to make this blessing of living, whatever pirush. Belaz, prishk, belaz, right? So the word in foreign language is called prishk. Okay, whatever. And some say, right, that this utensil, vessel, should be full. Like it says Balkama, so he says when it comes to these utensils, right, breaking them is like that's their death, whatever. So he says it's good idea to go like all the opinions, Perushim, of all the commentaries. Okay. So Melo כפשטה שהם מלא על גדותיו. So then, right, maleh, it says it has to be full. In other words, we're going through all these qualities, right, that this water requires. Not the water, I'm sorry, the wine. The cup of wine requires, right? So we're going quality by quality here, describing all of them. So now it's going to the quality of being full, maleh, right? Meaning what? The cup has to be full, as we said. So he said, so what does that mean? That it's like totally full up to the brim. Right, so look at Rabbi Yochanan says, right? Whoever blesses on a full cup, they're going to give him a portion, right, which has no borders. So meaning what? Borderless, lots of abundance, right? They give you for that, for using a full cup. Shemar, as it says, Adonai Yam Bedarom Yaresha. So another pasuk, right, which seems to be saying that you're full of the blessing of God, right? So what gives you the blessing of God? By using a full cup. Okay, so that means like fill it up to the brim, Don't go halfway. Go all the way. And don't be stingy, and say, oh, it's too much. I'm wasting. It's okay. It's no waste. Don't worry about it. So then he moves on. Itur Rav Yuda Meater Le Betalmideh. Right. So then it requires itur. So we have to see what this means, right? The word itur means like being adorned. So it says that the Gemara, Rabbi Yuda used to adorn it with Talmidim, with disciples. Perush Haya Moshiv Talmidav Sevivotav. So he says what that means is that he would seat his disciples around him. Beshat Bracha, in the time of the blessing. Rav Chazda Me'ater Le Benitle. Rav Chazda used to do it with like a cup or something. Use a cup. Rashi explains kosut, that we're talking about cups. That when we came to Birkat Haaretz, we add to it. Some explain it means that he would put like these good-looking cups right, these vessels right around him. Ve'adru behem, and they had robahen. Right, I'm sorry, I didn't say it right. They adorn it with that. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Till the end of the chapter, this goes. Okay, so we'll read through it. So it says, Ituf, right? What does ituf mean? Rapapa me'atef be'yativ ravashe paris sudra areshe. So it says, right, that this rabbi, Ravashe, would spread over like a handkerchief on top on his head. So I think what he means to say is like this, right? That his head was like covered, you know. Like he's got like a scarf on himself or whatever, a handkerchief, whatever it is that he's wearing there. طب bet yadav, they accepted with two hands. תאמר רבי חיננה בר פאפא, שאו ידיכם קודש, וברכו את אדוני ילקח מקבלו בבית ידיו. So he learns that from this pasuk, right? That's the way you got to do it. That's what it says in the Zohar also, by the way. When you take the wine of blessing, right? The way you do it is you take it with two hands, and then, right, once you pick it up with two hands, you hold it with your right hand. And then you say Birkat Hamazon as you're holding the cup, right, in your right hand like this. That's the way it's done. Okay, so קבלו בית ידיו, דאמר רבי חנינא בר פפא, שאו ידיכם קודש, וברכו את אדוני ילקח מקבלו בבית ידיו. כשמתחיל לברך נוטלו בימינו. And right, as we said, when he starts to bless Birkat Hamazon, he's going to be holding the wine in his right hand. אמר רבי יוחנן, ראשונים שאלו, so it says, right, Rabbi Yochanan, that the earlier people, right, the earlier generations, they asked the question, what's the din, right? How's the halacha that the left hand should assist the right hand? In other words, when you're holding it, because we said, right, that you should hold it with your right hand, but should the left hand be assisting or not? Or you don't need that, or it's not necessary, or it's not even allowed. What's the proper way to do it? בשמחה בשמאלו, אמר אשר הואיל ראשונים מבעיה להו, אנא לא להעביד בעובדה. So he says, since, look what he says, since the older authorities, right, we're not able to answer this, right? They had no clear answer. So he says, therefore, we're not going to do anything like, we're not going to do it, right? Because we're not sure about it. If they're not sure, we're certainly not sure. And then he says, "Matbio minakaka tefach." It lifts it up from the ground, right? One tefach. Imhu yoshev al gavakaka. That's only if he's sitting on the floor, right? Like the pasuk says, right? I'm going to lift up the cup of salvation. B'shem Adonai, and I'm going to call out the name of God. ואם הוא מסב בשולחנו, מגביהו בשולחן. But it says, if he's eating on his own table, he lifts it up from the table, right? Tefach, one tefach. The Tama Mishum Deshe שיהיה נראה לכל המסובין שיסתכלו בו. So he says, why do we do this? Why do we pick it up tefach? So all the people who are sitting on the table, the diners, whatever there, should know. All the people who are dining there should know that. I'm sorry. It should be visible to all the people who are there. That's what it means to say, right? It should be visible to all of them, and they should all look at it. So, right, what are we talking about here? Right, everything is talking about the same thing, right? Which is that cup of wine. There's all kinds of things that it requires, you know. So this is also part of them, part of the requirements that they have. Okay, so we said right there was like 10 things there, whatever, or 12, whatever it was. So it says there that me'al hashulchan tivach u'me'ata v'ta'anma mishum she'en nireh lechol masubin she'istaklu bo. So he says, what's the reason why we want that? That all the people who are dining there should see and take a look at it. So we want it to be conspicuous. That's what it is. Okay, but and then he puts his eyes on it, right? You got to look at it. Why? So he shouldn't divert his attention from it. So Rabbi Yochanan says, you know what? We don't have all these requirements. We just have 5. Right? 5 is enough. That's what he says, right? Okay, so that's interesting. He's reducing your burden over here, giving you 5 instead of 10. כתבו הגאונים כוס של ברכה צריך יהיו דברים. So the Geonim said, right, that this cup of blessing requires 10 things. As we said, right, some say 10, some say 5, whatever it is. ושאמר רבי יוחנן, אין לנו אלא ד', but it says, Rabbi Yochanan says we only have 4. So each one has like a different version of this, right? Whatever, 4, 5, 10. No into it. So he says, "V'lo matzich ituf." So it doesn't require to wrap your head inside right to there, whatever. Later, but it says it's not true. Ela kira papa, the halacha zek Papa Rabbi the bata'en, you know, because they are the final authorities of the Talmud, right? The Avdu Uvda, and they did already, like, you know, Lama said, but practically speaking, they already did like that opinion. Okay. Rambam Zal Rozkir Velot Eladad. Rambam only mentions 4 requirements, right? 4 prerequisites. Rabbi Yochanan, 4 of Rabbi Yochanan. But Tosfot Katu Minyana the Rabbi Yochanan. So Tosfot says, right, the number of Rabbi Yochanan Lo ate ela lemaute itur veituf. It's just coming to exclude these 2, right, which are not included there. But it says when it comes to, you know, giving it to the right hand, he admits, you know, that more time. So it says like this, right? They wrote the number of Rabbi Yochanan. Lo ate ela lemaute itur. It's coming to exclude itur, veituf, right? These are the things that we mentioned before. In our first count, which was 10. About benetina leamin modeh. When it comes to, you know, putting in your right hand, so he is modeh, right? So we'll see in the Shulchan Aruch, by the way, you know, what it really requires, you know, because we see there's different opinions here, right? One says 4, one says 5, one says 10. We'll see what the bottom line is, but anyway, we're just looking at all the opinions here. Because they said, right, in the old days, the earlier authorities, they said, what's the din, right? Can the right hand assist the left hand assist the right hand? So it says it makes sense to say that he admits even when it comes to taking with two hands. With Darish Leo, Mikra Se'u Yedechem, and he darshans out from this pasuk, this is a verse. Lift up your hands, right? קודם, ומגביה טפח נמי תדריש מכוס ישועות. And he says also, lifting it up a tefach, also he darshans from kos yeshua. So this verse, עשה. וכן נותן בו עיניו כדי שלא יסיח דעתו. Another thing, as we said, right, is that one of the requirements, prerequisites, whatever, is that you should look at it, right, with your eyes, stare at it. So why? Because we don't want him to get diverted, or distracted from the blessing. Okay. וכן רב נחמן היה רגיל לשלחו לאשתו, so Rav Nachman also was accustomed to send it to his wife, right? We spoke about this yesterday, or the day before, whatever it was, that the custom was, that this, since this cup of wine for Birkat Hamazon brings blessing, so they would send it to their wives, so they could also drink there. It brought everybody blessing there. So he says we have all custom for all these things nowadays, even right spreading out the sheet. So he says, don't bless, without your head covered. Your head has to be covered. What about women, by the way? Do they have to cover their hair when they bless? The men definitely have to do it. What about the ladies?
No, but it's a good idea.
Yeah, you're right. That's perfect what you're saying. It's not really a requirement. Yeah. And where do you see that, right? Go to any girls' yeshiva. Right? None of those girls covers their hair. And they're all making blessings, right? And praying, right? Nobody's covering their hair. Right? I think one of you guys works in a yeshiva, no? Teaches? Yeah. One of you, yeah. I know which one it is. Right? So, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, right?
Girls like candles, but yeah.
No, I'm sorry, what was the candles?
I don't see the girls. I mean, I don't see the girls doing any of the blessings like usually. So
yeah, no, but let's say they're drinking a cup of coffee or something, right? They don't cover.
No, no.
Yeah, of course.
Your mother does. Your mother takes a napkin. It's adorable. I love it.
Yes,
you're talking about when she lights Shabbat candles.
Yes,
that's what you're talking about, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking about any blessing. You know what I mean? Like any blessing.
Okay.
Women don't cover their hair when they bless, except married women, right? They cover their hair.
yes.
So single girls, they do not. They pray like that. They pray Amidah, right? You see the girls praying Amidah. They cover their hair when they pray the Amidah in the yeshiva? No. Right? You should know, by the way, just, by the way, I tell you, right, that the Sephardi girls, in the old days, they used to cover their hair in the yeshiva. That was a custom in the Sephardi countries. But the Ashkenazim, that wasn't their custom.
Rabbi, the Amidah, I looked down to the book and not try to look up. Well, of course, but sometimes I feel I need to cover myself with the Amidah. It's
What, cover your head?
Yes, because it's Shekinah. Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, I got you. I understand.
I feel like we need to, because the Amidah is, and even with Shema, you have to cover your eyes with your right hand.
So that's exactly what Shoshana said, right? Shoshana said it's good to do it, but it's not obligation.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what you're saying. You're saying the same thing, basically. It's a good idea, But those young girls, in the yeshiva girls, they don't cover their hair when they pray. You know that, right? I'm sure I don't have to tell you. So it is what it is, right? So women are not really obligated to cover their hair. By the way, even a married woman, let's say, right? Let's say she's at home, okay, and she's doing some blessing, whatever, or she's doing Amidah. She doesn't have to really cover her hair either. A married woman has to cover her hair when she goes outside, not inside the house. That's halacha. Some are stringent. Okay, that's very good. Baruch Hashem. I'm happy with that. If you're stringent, when you pray to cover your hair, fantastic. Right? As you said, all the power to you, but it's not really an obligation, so much. But the men, it really is an obligation. You can't really pray, right, as a man without covering your head. So just pointing that out, right, to explain, right, whatever, because come on, if you girls will get together, right, let's say, for Shabbat, right, and you said Birkat Hamazon on the table, would you cover your head when you're saying Birkat Hamazon? I doubt it, right? I highly doubt it. Right?
No, but I'm thinking about it now.
Okay, think about it as much as you want. Yeah, like when you go to the store, right? The salesman says, "Yeah, think about it. I'll think about it." Whatever. I don't know, but anyway, the point is, right, that usually the single girls, especially, they don't cover their hair when they pray. Yeah, you know how it is. Okay, whatever. But it's a good thing to do. Yeah, of course. It's proper. It's proper to do. Okay. Okay, fantastic. So, right, we got that idea. Let's move on a little bit. We're almost done. Maybe we'll finish this chapter today. We'll see, right? If we get lucky. Right? Rav Asher, en masichin et alakos shel bracha. Right. So another thing he says, right? Rav Asher says in the Gemara that when you're doing this blessing, right, of the Birkat Hamazon with the cup, you shouldn't talk at that time. So once he receives the cup, he's not allowed to talk. That's what he says. And also he says the people who are there, like eating together with them there, they shouldn't talk either. From the time that the blessing, starts, the Birkat Hamazon. Not only the time where he's actually blessing, right? They shouldn't talk at that time. As we said, right, yesterday, they have to listen to Birkat Hamazon, because in those days, right, one said for everybody. That's the way it was, Today, everybody says by themselves. So, then you got to really listen, right? You got to pay attention to it. Otherwise, you got a problem. Right? You have to also like try to understand what he's saying as well, not just listen to it. It's like mishmash, some gibberish, Not only that, he says, but also between one blessing and another, they shouldn't be talking. In other words, the Birkat Hamazon has 4 blessings, right? So you shouldn't talk in the middle of them either, in between, Why? Because we don't want, right, them to talking about mundane things when they're supposed to be listening to the Birkat Hamazon. Okay, so then it says, אמר רב עשה, אין מברכין על הכוס של פורענויות, שהוא כוס שני, פירוש אם שתה בית כוסות לא יברך על גימל, שנאמר, איכון קריאתך לאורך ישראל, וכיוון ששתה הזוגות, לא קריאה באיכון, right? So, okay, this is something we spoke about before, if you guys remember, right? That, in the old days, they had this thing where they didn't want to drink pairs of cups, right? It was considered to be dangerous, pairs. In other words, even numbers, right? Only odd numbers. So therefore, right, in those days, they wouldn't bless on the 3rd cup, since it was already right after 2, which is a pair, even number. Right? Because since now he's afraid he's going to get harmed by that. Right? Nowadays, as we said, right, we're not particular about this, but in those days they were. That's the way it was. So he says, right, we don't say no, just the opposite, right? On the contrary, do the third one in order to nullify the even number. Maybe that's a good thing, right? No, he says we don't say that. לפי שכבר נסתלק מן הסעודה. Why? Because he already left the סעודה at that point. וזהו כוס בפני עצמו, because this is a cup by itself. שאינו בא אלא בשביל הברכה. So it's only coming for the blessing. וצריך לשב בשעת המברך. אם היה להולך כשאכל או עומד או בסב, כשמגיע לברך צריך לשב כדי שיוכל לכוון יותר. So another thing, right, teaching you here is that when you do ברכת המזון, you should be sitting, right? Don't do ברכת המזון standing. Why is that? Because you concentrate better like that, when you sit. So therefore, right, Birkat Hamazon should not be said standing. But Bediavad, by the way, Bediavad, if you said it standing, he fulfills obligation, but Lechatchila, you shouldn't do that. Okay, so that's that. And then he goes on to say, כדי שיוכל לכוון יותר וגם לא יהיה מסב שהוא דרך גאווה, אלא ישב בהמה. Right, so another thing he says that, you shouldn't be like also reclining, like it's like gava, like arrogant, like like you're lying down, like couched down. That's not the proper way. You should be sitting upright, sitting upright, not standing and not lying down, like couched. It's not the way to do it. Okay, good. Another thing is, he says, right, that don't do Birkat Hamazon when you're walking, right? Right? כתב הראש, that's what the Rosh says, right? דאמינן יכול אכל כשהוא מהלך צריך לשב ברווחה, ברך, מה כשהוא הולך בביתו. So he says, right, even if he ate, he ate his meal when he was walking around, he likes to walk and eat, this guy, right? Whatever, right? So if he did that, even then, right, he should, when he says Birkat Hamazon, he should sit down because it's concentrate on the blessing. Like even though he ate walking around the room, doing circles around the room. Okay, so anyway, but he says, but he says, but on the other hand, right, says the Rosh, but if you're going on the road, right, let's say you're traveling, not in, you're not indoors, outside, then you don't have to sit down to do Birkat Hamazon. Why is that? Because if you have to stop, when you're traveling, it's like that you lose your concentration like that. So therefore, the better thing to do is just to keep walking and do Birkat Hamazon as you walk. So what are we talking, right? We're talking about when he's traveling, right? Going somewhere, We're not talking about just, he's, walking around, just for, right, strolling, we're not talking about that. Okay, so that's that. Okay, I think we're done. Okay, very good. So let's see what we got with the with Yosef. I finished the whole tour. Maybe I should have done that, but it's okay. Hope you forgive me. So, oh boy, I went really too far. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so you know what? It's kind of late, so I guess we'll pick it up next time. Bezat Hashem tomorrow. Thanks for coming. Be blessed with wealth and health and happiness. So Bezat Hashem, next time we'll do Bet Yosef and Shulchan Aruch. The whole tour we already finished. I went a little bit berserk. I'm sorry. I apologize. So it's okay. It's all good. It's all good. It's all Torah. Bezat Hashem. So Laila Tov, Chazak Baruch. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
All the best.
Thank you, Rabbi.
God bless.